Most people are not living. Look around you. Look deeply into the eyes of the people you meet on the street, in your office, even in your own home. What do you see? They are breathing. Yes. Their hearts are beating. Yes. They are moving from one place to another. But are they living? No. They are only copying. They are functioning mechanisms, repeating patterns they did not choose, echoing words they did not create, and feeling fears that do not belong to them. They copy their parents, they copy their friends, they copy the society that surrounds them, and in this copying they lose the only thing that ever mattered, their own original face. But a copied life cannot bring joy. It is impossible. A photocopy has no soul. A carbon copy has no heartbeat. It only brings regret. Deep, silent, corrosive regret. Today, I am not here to comfort you with sweet lies. I am here to show you how to return to yourself. In this message, what I will give you is not advice. Advice is cheap. Advice is for the mind. This will be a wake-up call. I will show you why your life feels empty, even when, on the outside, it looks full. Even when your bank account is full, your schedule is full, your house is full, why does the inner room of your being remain so hauntingly empty? I will show you how you became a stranger to your own soul. I will show you why you feel stuck, tired, lost, and how to step back into the fire of your own being. By the end, you will know the difference, the vast, unbridgeable difference between truly living and just passing time. You will see the life you could have been living, and you will know how to begin, even if you must start from zero, even if you must stand naked in the wind, stripped of all your old costumes. That is the only way to begin. Most people do not live, they wait. Look at your own life, honestly. Are you living or are you waiting? They wait for the right moment. They wait for the right courage. They wait for the right permission. They wait for retirement. They wait for the weekend. They wait for someone to come and save them. And while they wait, life passes by. It does not wait. Existence has no patience for your hesitation. Deep down you feel this. You feel the heaviness of days that all look the same. Monday is a copy of Sunday, and Tuesday is a copy of Monday. You feel the regret rising inside you at night when the noise of the world fades and you are left alone with the ceiling. And you pretend you don't feel it. You turn on the television, you scroll through your phone, you drink, you eat, you socialize, you pretend because facing it hurts. To look at the wound requires courage, but pretending is far more painful. The pain of the wound can heal, but the pain of pretending is a cancer that eats you slowly until there is nothing left. Today, I will help you see the truth that fear has been hiding from you, not to scare you, you are already scared enough, but to free you, because once you see what has been missing, the old sleep cannot return. Once you have seen the light, you cannot believe in the darkness anymore. If you are brave enough to walk this path with me, if you are ready to stop pretending, show your commitment right now, like this video. It is not just a click. It is a signal to your own unconscious mind that you are ready to hear the truth. It is a small yes to existence. In this talk, I will take you into the root of your life. I will show you why you drift instead of live, why you settle instead of choose, why you follow instead of walk your own path. We will look at the beliefs that keep you trapped, the habits that steal your energy, and the fears that whisper, not now, maybe later, even though later never comes. Later is the greatest illusion of the mind. There is no later. There is only now. Then we will go deeper into the art of living with awareness, into courage, into presence, into the fire of saying yes to your own existence. I will show you how to stop sleepwalking through your days, how to wake up your soul without force, how to create a life you won't regret when your final day arrives, because that day will arrive. That is the only certainty you have. Some of what I say will sting. Truth always stings at first. It is like iodine on a cut. It burns because it cleans. Some will feel like a forgotten truth returning home. But if you listen closely, something inside you will turn. Something inside you will open softly, naturally, like a flower greeting the sun after a long, cold winter. By the end of this journey, you will not look at your life the same way again. When I told you that you are not living your life, only walking through a dream someone else built for you, something inside you recognized it. A small tightening in the chest, a pull in the heart, a whisper saying, yes, this is true. That whisper is the most precious thing you possess. It is the seed of your awakening, and now from that quiet recognition, we begin the real journey. Because here is something most people completely miss. Before you can live your life, you must see the life you are actually living. Before awakening can happen, sleep must be recognized. And most people never recognize it. They call their sleep routine. They call their numbness normal. They call their repetition responsibility. They call their fear practicality. And this is why they suffer. They have given beautiful names to their chains. They have decorated their prison cells and called them home. Let us enter this slowly in a long breath. Every day you wake up and step into a pattern. The same thoughts, the same habits, the same emotions, the same people, the same stories, the same version of yourself that you wore yesterday. Life becomes a loop, a circle, a well-worn path. And because you have walked it so many times, you mistake it for living. You think movement is life. You think activity is life. But routine is not life. Routine is the absence of life. Routine is a comfortable coffin, soft, familiar, warm enough that you do not notice you are dying inside it. Here's what most people never realize. The mind loves repetition because repetition feels safe. The mind is a machine. It wants efficiency. It wants predictability. The mind loves autopilot because autopilot demands nothing from you. It requires no consciousness. You can do it while you are asleep. But life is not found in safety. Life is found in risk, in surprise, in choice, in the unknown. A routine life is a mechanical life. A life lived without awareness is not living. It is surviving. It is breathing without being alive. Let me give you an image. Imagine a man walking in a perfect circle every single day. He believes he is traveling. He believes he is moving. He believes he is exploring, but he is only repeating the same small circle. And because the circle feels familiar, he never steps out of it. This is how most people live. They confuse movement with progress. They confuse activity with aliveness. They confuse repetition with meaning. Ask yourself honestly, how many of your days look exactly like the day before? How many mornings feel identical? How many nights end with the same dull ache in your chest? How many times have you promised yourself, tomorrow I will live differently, only to fall back into the same old rhythm the moment tomorrow arrives? This is the illusion of a life that looks full from the outside, work, goals, tasks, responsibilities, but feels empty from the inside. Empty because it is not yours. And here's something that might sting, but let it sting. Busyness has become your shield. When you stay busy, you don't have to face yourself. You don't have to feel the emptiness. You don't have to listen to the whisper asking for something more. You hide behind tasks so you don't have to confront truth. Busyness is the new smoking, something people use to avoid facing the silence inside them. If you are tired of this busyness, if you are tired of this circle, I invite you to join us deeper. Subscribe to this channel. This is not just a channel, it is a gathering of souls who are ready to break the circle. By subscribing, you are planting a flag in the ground of your own life. You are saying, I want to wake up. Wake and comfort. Comfort is the deepest prison of all. Comfort keeps you where you are. Comfort whispers, this is enough. Don't move, don't change, don't question. Comfort numbs your hunger. Comfort kills your courage. Comfort is the hand that gently holds your shoulder and says, stay asleep. And because comfort comes with no alarms, no warnings, no pain, you fall deeper and deeper into its arms until one day you wake up and realize half your life is gone. But here's the turning point. The fact that you are listening to these words means the sleep is already cracking. A part of you is waking up. A part of you is tired of watching yourself repeat the same day again and again. A part of you is beginning to see the illusion, the false life, the borrowed life, the unconscious life. And once you see the illusion, even for a moment, it can never again hold you in the same way. This next part might seem counterintuitive at first, but it will change everything. The illusion is not your enemy. The illusion is your teacher. When you see the emptiness of the life you've been living, it creates a longing for something real. It creates a hunger for authenticity. It creates a fire inside you, and that fire is the beginning of awakening. And now, from this place of honesty, we can go deeper into the second layer of this truth. Because once you see that your life has become a loop, you must confront the uncomfortable reason why something inside you has begun to die. Not your body is fine, your soul, your aliveness, your inner flame. And we must look at that flame now before it burns out. Let us move into that next truth together. As we move deeper, I want you to slow down with me, because what we enter now is tender, intimate, and often hidden even from your own eyes. You may not speak about it, you may not name it, you may not even admit it to yourself, but you feel it quietly, constantly, like a soft ache beneath your ribs, like a heaviness behind your eyes, like a sigh you carry through your days. It is the feeling of an unlived life. It is the slow death of your inner flame. And yet you pretend not to feel it, because feeling it would force you to confront the truth. You have been shrinking your soul to fit into a life that was never meant for you. Let us take this slowly in one long breath. When you stop living consciously, something in you begins to starve, not your body. Your body is fed, clothed, sheltered, not your mind. Your mind is full of tasks, messages, goals, noise. What starves is your inner being, your aliveness, your essence, the part of you that once felt wonder, the part of you that once felt curiosity, the part of you that once felt joy rising in the chest for no reason at all. Do you remember that part? The part of you that once asked big questions, that once dreamed without fear, that once reached for life with open hands. That part slowly dries like a river that forgets how to flow. Here is something most people do not realize. The soul does not die quickly. The soul dies in small, nearly invisible ways. A neglected passion here, a swallowed truth there, a dream postponed again and again, a desire ignored, a voice silenced, a longing denied. And one day you look in the mirror, and the eyes staring back at you feel older than your age, tired from carrying all the unspoken things inside you. Numbness becomes your shield. You no longer feel much, neither deep sadness nor deep joy. You move through your days like a ghost, walking inside your own body. You laugh when expected. You speak when required. You smile for photos. You play your part, but inside there is a silence that frightens you. Not the peaceful silence of meditation, the empty silence of someone who has forgotten what it feels like to be alive. Let me give you an image. Imagine a flower that once bloomed with wild color, petals wide, fragrance rich. Over time, no sunlight touches it, no water reaches its roots. Slowly, quietly, it begins to wilt. The petals droop, the color fades, and yet from a distance it still looks like a flower. You may walk by and say, "How lovely." But if you touch it, you feel it. It has no life left. This is what happens to a human being who stops living consciously. On the outside, everything looks fine. Inside, the color is fading. The tragedy is that the mind will do everything it can to distract you from this inner death. It will keep you busy, it will keep you scrolling, it will keep you running from task to task, from plan to plan, from noise to noise. Because if you ever stopped, even for a moment, you would feel the emptiness, you would feel the longing. You would feel the truth rising like a storm in your chest. And the mind is terrified of that moment because that moment is the beginning of awakening. Ask yourself honestly, without judgment, how long has it been since you felt truly alive, not entertained, not distracted, not stimulated, alive? How long has it been since you woke up excited for the day? Since you felt passion moving through your body like a flame, since you felt clarity instead of confusion, freedom instead of heaviness, courage instead of routine, you pretend not to feel the ache because you fear what it demands. You fear the changes it would force. You fear the truths it would reveal. You fear the path it would place before you. It is easier to ignore the starving soul than to feed it, because feeding it means you must live differently. You must choose differently. You must become someone you have forgotten how to be. But here is the miracle. The fact that you feel this ache means your soul is not gone. It is still alive. It is calling you. It is waiting. It has not given up on you. The ache is not a sign of death. It is the first sign of rebirth. When the soul begins to stir, when it begins to hunger for truth again, when it begins to whisper from beneath the numbness, that is the moment life can return. And now, because you have felt this ache with honesty, we can walk into the next truth. Why you stayed asleep for so long, not because you are weak, not because you lack discipline, but because something inside you was afraid. Afraid of living, afraid of choosing, afraid of becoming too big for the life you built around your smallness. If you feel this ache, if you feel this longing to feed your starving soul, there are ways to go deeper than just this video. We have prepared guidebooks, ebooks that act as maps for this terrain. If you feel called, check the description. But more importantly, check your own heart. Let us enter that truth together, now that we have touched the quiet ache inside you, the ache of an unlived life, the slow starvation of the soul. we can finally turn toward the truth that lies beneath it. Because if the soul longs to live, if the heart aches to expand, if life itself is calling you, why do you stay asleep? Why do you remain in the half-life, repeating the same patterns, choosing the same familiar paths, avoiding the very aliveness you crave? And here is the answer, simple yet piercing. You stay asleep because living requires courage. Waking up demands bravery you were never taught to cultivate. And fear, when left unexamined, becomes the invisible master of your life. Let us move slowly through this. The way you would walk through a room full of old memories. The first reason you stay asleep is fear of change. Change threatens the identity you've built. Change disrupts your routines. Change forces you to step out of the old and into the unknown. Even when the old is killing you, it feels safer than stepping into something new. Human beings cling to what is familiar even when it hurts. The familiar is warm. The familiar is predictable. The familiar doesn't demand courage. So you stay with the familiar even when your whole being whispers, "This is not my life." The second reason is fear of failure. You were taught to succeed, to meet expectations, to impress others, to avoid mistakes. And because of this training, you have come to fear your own possibility. You fear putting your real self into the world, because if that self is rejected or judged or criticized, the pain feels too big to bear. So you play small, you shrink your dreams, you avoid risk, you build a life that is safe but not alive. And you call this safety when in truth it is only self-protection disguised as responsibility. The third reason you stay asleep is fear of judgment. From childhood, you were taught to seek approval from parents, teachers, friends, society. You learned to measure yourself through the eyes of others. You learned that being liked was more important than being true, that being accepted was more important than being alive. So, you began to perform. You began to wear masks. You began to shape yourself into someone others would applaud. And slowly, without noticing, you handed your life over to the opinions around you. You became a collection of expectations, not a soul on fire. The fourth and deepest reason of all is fear of the unknown. The unknown is vast. It has no map. It has no guarantees. It has no promises. It asks you to step with empty hands. It asks you to trust yourself in a way you never have. And because you were raised in a world that worships certainty and fears mystery, the unknown feels like danger. So you cling to the known even when the known suffocates you. Let me offer you an image to hold in your heart. Imagine a person with chains around their ankles. The chains are old, worn, familiar. They have carried them for so long they no longer feel their weight. One day, someone brings a key and unlocks the chains. The metal falls to the ground, the person is free, but instead of walking away, they bend down, pick up the chains, and hold them tightly in their hands, not because they want to suffer, but because they do not know who they are without the weight. The chains have become part of their identity. Freedom feels too open, too vast, too frightening. This is what most people do. They hold on to the very things that imprison them. Fears, habits, routines, identities. Because without those burdens, they do not know who they are. They cling to the chains because the chains are familiar. They embrace their bondage because freedom feels like a void. But here is the magic hidden in all of this. The moment you see your fear clearly, the moment you shine awareness onto it, the moment you name it, something inside you begins to shift. Fear loses its power the moment it is seen. Fear thrives in the dark. It dissolves in the light of awareness. When you look directly at fear without running, without explaining, without resisting, fear begins to shrink. And in that moment, courage is born, not loud, not dramatic, but soft and steady, like a flame rising inside you. And this is where your real journey begins, because once you understand why you stayed asleep, you can finally begin the sacred work of waking up, of finding your real life again, the life that was buried under conditioning, fear, and expectation. If you value this clarity, if you feel this light dissolving your fear, consider supporting this channel. By using the Super Thanks button, you're offering an energy exchange that keeps this work alive. It is a way of saying, I value the truth. And for those who wish to walk closer with us, the join button is open. Let us walk into that next chapter. Now that you've seen why you stayed asleep, why fear wrapped itself around your life like a warm blanket and kept you small, we can enter the next deeper layer of truth. This is the layer most people never touch, because to see it is to unravel everything you believed yourself to be. And yet without seeing this, you cannot live. You can only continue the performance that the world taught you. The truth is simple, but it shakes the ground beneath your feet. The person you think you are is not you. It is a borrowed self, stitched together from the expectations of others, shaped by voices you no longer remember, built from beliefs you did not choose, carrying dreams that were never yours. Let us walk slowly here, because this truth is delicate and powerful. From the moment you were born, you began absorbing everything around you. You absorbed your parents' fears. You absorbed their hopes. You absorbed their pain. You absorbed their frustration. You absorbed their unspoken regrets. You inherited their idea of who you should be long before you ever had a chance to feel who you actually are. You were given a name, a role, a path before you learned how to walk. You were trained into a version of you that matched what society wanted, not what your soul needed. Think back to your childhood. There were moments when your true nature appeared, pure, wild, spontaneous, joyful. But each time you expressed something real, something alive, something raw, some voice around you corrected you. Don't do that, don't say that, act like this, be polite, be good, be quiet, be like them. And little by little you began to shrink. You trimmed off pieces of yourself to fit into the world. You learned to please, not to feel. You learned to obey, not to explore. You learned to survive, not to live. What you call your personality is in many ways a survival strategy. It is not your essence, it is your adaptation. You became who you needed to be to belong. You became who you needed to be to avoid punishment. You became who you needed to be to get love. And now, as an adult, you are still carrying those adaptations. You are still wearing the clothes society tailored for you, clothes that never fit your soul. Let me give you an image that touches this truth. Imagine wearing someone else's shoes every day of your life. At first, you notice the discomfort, you notice the tightness, the pinching, the awkward shape. Every step is a reminder that these shoes do not belong to you. But over time, because you must walk, you begin to accept it. You tell yourself this is just how walking feels. You tell yourself that pain is the price of movement. You forget that your feet were meant to move freely, to feel the texture of the earth, to dance without restriction. And when the shoes finally come off, perhaps in a rare moment of vulnerability or deep crisis, the earth beneath your feet feels almost painful. It feels too real. It feels too alive. It feels too unfamiliar. This is what it feels like to meet yourself after years of wearing the borrowed self. And here is the most heartbreaking part. Most people never remove the shoes. They die having never touched the ground of their own being. They die having lived a life that was never truly theirs. They die with the music still inside them, unheard, unsung, unlived. But you are here, you are listening, which means something in you is already waking up. Something in you is already questioning why you act the way you act, why you think the way you think, why you desire what you desire. Something inside you is whispering, this cannot be all there is. That whisper is your real self calling through the cracks in the borrowed one. It is a rebellion of the soul. What I'm about to tell you might feel shocking at first, but it is essential. The self you defend, the self you protect, the self you show the world is often the very thing shielding you from the life you long to live. The borrowed self is afraid of truth, afraid of risk, afraid of authenticity, because authenticity threatens its existence. The borrowed self is a construct, a house of cards, one breath of truth and it trembles. The borrowed self wants approval. The real self wants freedom. The borrowed self wants safety. The real self wants aliveness. The borrowed self wants to fit in. The real self wants to expand. And here is the turning point. The moment you see the borrowed self clearly, something inside you begins to loosen. The mask becomes heavier. The roles feel false. The paths you walked feel narrow. The desires you chase feel hollow. You start to feel a quiet rebellion rising within you, a longing to step out of the costume and reveal your naked soul to yourself. And once that longing is awakened, the old self can never fully reclaim you, because you have tasted truth, and truth does not vanish once seen. The illusion may return, it may try to seduce you back into sleep with promises of comfort, but it cannot own you the way it did. You have seen the bars of the cage, and once you see the bars, you can no longer believe you are free. Now that you have seen the borrowed self, we move even deeper into the ways conditioning kills your aliveness. Conditioning does not only shape who you think you are, it slowly kills who you truly are. And this death is subtle, almost invisible. It does not happen in one moment of violence. It happens in thousands of tiny moments, so small you barely notice them. A rule here, a judgment there, a warning whispered by a fearful parent, a dream dismissed by a cynical teacher, a desire shamed by a rigid society, a fear repeated again and again until it becomes your truth. And slowly, the flame of your aliveness flickers, dims, and fades beneath the weight of a life that is not yours. Let us take this gently. Your real self, your being, is wild. It is spontaneous, unpredictable, curious, joyful. It is like a child who dances when music plays, who laughs without reason, who asks questions fearlessly, who sees the world with fresh eyes every day. But conditioning teaches you to fear that wildness. It teaches you to distrust your spontaneity. It teaches you that your real nature is dangerous, too much, too honest, too intense, too free. So you begin to tame yourself, not because it feels right, but because it feels safe. You domesticate your own soul. And this is where the tragedy happens. Everything that makes you alive, everything that makes you human, everything that makes your soul feel like fire instead of ashes gets buried under layers of should, must, and be careful. The conditioned mind does not care about joy, it cares about control. The conditioned mind does not chase truth, it chases approval. The conditioned mind does not seek expansion, it seeks safety, even if that safety costs you your entire life. Think about creativity. As a child, creativity flowed through you effortlessly. You drew, you made, you imagined, you played with colors and ideas just because it felt good. There was no goal, no market, no judgment, but the conditioned mind whispers, be practical, be productive, be serious, don't waste time. And slowly, the door to your creativity closes. You tell yourself you are not creative. You say, I am not an artist. But the truth is, you didn't lose your creativity. You lost permission to express it. You locked it away in the basement of your being because the world told you it had no value. Think about joy, deep, natural joy. Joy that rises for no reason, joy that dances in your chest like a bird taking flight. As a child, you knew this joy. It was your natural state. But conditioning tells you that joy must be earned, that joy must be deserved, that joy must be justified by achievement. Work first, play later. But later never comes, and so joy becomes rare, distant, occasional. You replace it with distraction, entertainment, noise, stimulation. But distraction is not joy. Distraction is how we avoid noticing we have forgotten joy. Distraction is a cheap substitute for the ecstasy of being alive. Think about passion. Passion is dangerous to the conditioned mind because passion cannot be controlled. Passion demands truth, intensity, risk. Passion threatens the predictable life you have built. Passion might make you leave a job that destroys your soul. Passion might make you leave a relationship that is dead. So conditioning calls passion impractical, childish, unrealistic, and you bury it to fit into the narrow hallway society calls adulthood. Think about silence. Silence is where your real self speaks. Silence is where the soul reveals itself. Silence is where truth comes. But conditioning makes silence uncomfortable because in silence you cannot hide from yourself. In silence, the borrowed self begins to dissolve. You cannot drown your knowing in noise, so you fill your world with constant sounds, music, shows, chatter, scrolling, anything to avoid the quiet room inside you where life waits. You become addicted to noise because silence is the mirror you are afraid to look into. Let me give you an image to hold. Imagine a child dancing freely under the sun, arms open, head back, joy overflowing from every cell. Now imagine an adult watching that child, but looking over their shoulder, afraid someone might see them enjoying life too much. The child lives from the soul, the adult lives from conditioning, and yet the adult was once that child. The only difference is conditioning, the slow, steady burying of aliveness. And do you know the most dangerous thing about conditioning? It convinces you that its voice is your voice. You begin to believe that the restrictions it places on you are your own preferences. You say, I don't like to dance, when in reality you are just afraid to be seen. You say, I am a practical person, when in reality you are just terrified of the unknown. You begin to mistake fear for wisdom. You begin to mistake avoidance for intelligence. You begin to mistake obedience for maturity, and in doing so you abandon yourself without realizing it. But here is the miracle. Your aliveness never dies. It hides, it waits, it stays just beneath the surface like embers under ashes, ready to burst into flame the moment you breathe truth into them. The fact that you are listening to these words is proof that your embers are still warm, that your aliveness is still asking to be reclaimed. It is asking for oxygen. It is asking for attention. If you feel those embers glowing, if you feel a spark of recognition, do not let it fade. This is the moment to fan the flame. One way to keep this fire burning is to surround yourself with reminders of the truth. We have created resources, books, writings that act as fuel for this fire. You can find them in the description below. They are not just books, they are companions for the journey back to yourself. Now that you see how conditioning kills your fire, we can walk into the next revelation, the painful one, the one you have felt but never spoken, what it feels like to live a life that is not your own. Because once you feel the truth clearly, the desire to awaken becomes unstoppable. Let us go there together. Now we walk into a truth that so many people carry in their bones but never dare to name. A truth that sits like a stone in the chest, heavy and silent. The truth that hurts not because it is sharp, but because it is familiar. The truth that follows you through every year of your life, whispering at the edges of your awareness. This is not my life. You feel it in the quiet moments. You feel it late at night when the world is still and the distractions fade. You feel it when you look at your own reflection and something inside you says, I don't recognize who I've become. And yet you move through the days pretending everything is fine, afraid to disturb the fragile structure of the life you built around someone you are not. Let us stay with this slowly, gently, because this is not an idea, it is an ache. When you live a life not your own, something inside you becomes hollow. You laugh, but the laughter doesn't reach your eyes. You smile, but there is no warmth behind it. You succeed, and yet you feel nothing. You achieve, but the joy lasts only a moment before dissolving like a drop of water on a hot stone. You move through your tasks like a ghost wearing the clothes of a human being. You may say, but my life looks good. Yes, it may look good. You may have the perfect house, the perfect job, the perfect family, but a life that looks good is not the same as a life that feels good. And there is a deep, vast difference between being alive and being someone people approve of. You may have done everything right. You may have checked every box society placed before you: education, work, stability, responsibility. And yet that quiet, pulsing sense of wrongness remains, because the soul does not care about society's checklists. The soul cares only about truth. Imagine a bird living inside a golden cage. The cage is polished, beautiful, admired by everyone who sees it. People say, how lucky this bird is. What a stunning home. Look at the gold, look at the craftsmanship. But inside the cage, the bird cannot fly. It cannot stretch its wings. It cannot live its nature. And what is a bird that cannot fly? It is not a bird. It is a prisoner. A life can shine on the outside and still be a prison within. You are the bird, and your conditioning, your borrowed desires, your fear of judgment, these are the gold bars. They glitter, but they confine. This is the pain of a life not your own. It is subtle but relentless. Every day it takes a tiny piece of your spirit. Every day it whispers, this is not it. Every day you feel the weight of unlived moments, unspoken truths, untouched desires, and perhaps the greatest pain of all is this: you fear it might be too late to change, too late to begin again, too late to step off the path that has carried you so far from yourself. But hear me now. This is the mind speaking, not your being. The mind fears change because change threatens its identity. But the soul does not understand the idea of too late. The soul exists outside time. It lights up the moment you return to it. Whether that return happens at 20 years old or 70, the soul has been patient. It has been waiting for you. It does not judge the time you spent asleep. It only celebrates the moment you wake up. And here is something most people never see. The pain of living someone else's life is actually a gift. It is a compass. It is a signal from your inner world saying, wake up. This path has nothing for you. This direction is empty. That ache in your chest is not a failure. It is a message that you are meant for something more alive, more honest, more yours. If you did not feel the pain, you would sleep forever. The pain is the alarm clock. Do not hate the alarm clock. Thank it. Once you feel this pain consciously, once you allow yourself to sit with it without running, a great clarity emerges. You begin to realize that you cannot keep living this way. You begin to feel the urgency of your own existence. You begin to sense the possibility of another way, and this is the first fragile step toward awakening. If this message is resonating with your soul, if you feel the bars of your own cage shaking, then support this channel. Join us. Click the join button to become a member of this community of seekers. It is a small step in the outer world, but a declaration in the inner world. It says, I am ready to fly. Now we move to the doorway of that awakening, because once you see the lie, once you feel the pain of living a borrowed life, the next step becomes inevitable. The first step of awakening is seeing the false. And once you see the false, you can never again pretend it is true. Let us walk into that moment of seeing. Now that the ache has spoken, now that you felt perhaps more clearly than ever the weight of living a life that was never truly yours, we stand at the threshold of awakening. And this threshold is not made of inspiration or motivation or positivity. It is made of something far more raw, far more honest, far more sacred, the willingness to see the lie. Because awakening does not begin with light. Awakening begins with fire, the fire of truth. And truth, when it first touches the conditioned mind, burns. Let us breathe into this. For your whole life you have been told who you are. You have been told what is right, what is wrong, what is possible, what is realistic, what is mature, what is expected. These voices have shaped you like hands molding clay until you forgot the shape you once had before the world touched you. The lie was not given to you all at once. It was given little by little, so softly and so early that it became part of your inner landscape. The lie said, be safe, not alive, fit in, don't stand out, please others, forget yourself, follow the path, don't wonder, choose comfort, avoid courage, live predictably, not passionately, don't listen to your soul, listen to us. And because these voices came from people you trusted, parents, teachers, elders, you obeyed. You believed that obedience was loyalty. You believed that obedience was love. You believed that obedience was goodness, and in the process, you betrayed the deepest truth of your own being. Awakening begins when you finally see this betrayal, not as something you did wrong, but as something you inherited, something that was passed down to you from others who were themselves asleep, something that was given to you by people who never had the chance to meet their own souls. Awakening begins with compassion, not blame, with clarity, not anger. Imagine you are sitting in a dark room holding a small candle. For years you believed the room was everything. You believed the walls were the limits of your world. You believed the dim light was the full extent of life. Then someone opens a window. Sunlight floods in. You blink. You squint. Your eyes hurt. The brightness is overwhelming. But as your eyes adjust, you realize something extraordinary. The room was never your home. It was a tiny corner of a vast universe. The darkness was never your nature. It was just the absence of seeing. This is what happens when you see the lie. The small life you've been living begins to crumble, not because it was evil, but because it was too small for the truth of who you are. The path you've been following becomes unbearable, not because you are weak, but because you are waking up. The roles you've been playing feel heavy, not because you are failing at them, but because they were never meant for your soul. When truth enters your awareness, the false begins to fall away on its own. You do not need to force it. You do not need to fight it. Awareness is fire, and fire burns the false effortlessly. All you must do is look. Look at the routines that silence you. Look at the beliefs that limit you. Look at the fears that cage you. Look at the choices you make out of habit rather than love. Look at the ways you betray yourself daily. Look gently, but look honestly. And here is the miracle. In the very moment you see the lie, even if only for a heartbeat, awakening begins. Not in the dramatic way movies show it, not as a lightning strike or sudden transformation. Awakening begins quietly. A small space opens inside you. A breath becomes deeper than usual. A thought suddenly feels foreign. A desire you buried long ago rises to the surface. A sadness you carried for years begins to soften. You start to sense the possibility of another life, not someday, but now. And once this space opens, once you see even a dim outline of the truth, you cannot return to the old life with the same blindness. The sleep loses its comfort. The prison loses its illusion of safety. The lie loses its power. You are no longer fully asleep. You are not fully awake either. You are in between, where all transformation begins. And now that the lie has been seen, we can finally begin the sacred journey back to your real life. The life buried under conditioning, fear, and habit. The life waiting for you like a seed beneath winter soil. The life that begins the moment you start listening to yourself again. Let us take that step now. Now that you have seen the lie, now that you have felt the false structures of your life beginning to loosen, crumble, dissolve, we can finally step into the most intimate and sacred part of this journey, returning to your inner voice. Not the voice of your mind, which is loud and crowded with old fears. Not the voice of the world, which shouts rules and expectations. Not the voice of your past, which echoes with conditioning. I am speaking of the quiet voice beneath all of that. The soft whisper, the subtle pull, the gentle knowing that has been calling to you since the very beginning. The voice of your being, the voice of your truth. Let us move gently, because this voice is delicate. It does not shout, it does not demand, it does not argue. It simply waits. It waits for silence. It waits for space. It waits for the moment you finally grow tired of listening to everyone else. And in that moment, when the noise of the world becomes too heavy, when the lies become too painful, when the loneliness of living someone else's life becomes unbearable, you begin to hear it again, softly, like a quiet wind moving through the leaves. Here is something most people never realize. Your inner voice has never abandoned you. You abandoned it, not out of malice, not out of intention, but out of survival. The world taught you to trust everything except yourself. The world said, listen to us, follow our rules, believe our beliefs, choose our path, want what we want you to want. And as you tried to fit in, as you tried to obey, as you tried to be who others expected, you turned your back on the one source of truth that could have guided you, your own inner compass. Imagine a quiet stream hidden deep inside a forest, pure, clear, flowing from the very heart of the earth. That stream is your inner voice. It always flows. It always knows the way. But over time, the forest becomes overgrown. Leaves cover the water, branches fall across it, mud clouds it, and the stream becomes harder to see, harder to hear, harder to trust. But the stream does not disappear. It is still there, moving beneath the weight of everything you've layered over it. Your task now is not to create your inner voice. It already exists. Your task is to remove what blocks it, to peel away the noise, to clear the debris, to make space. Because the voice of your being is subtle. It speaks in whispers, not in commands. It speaks in feelings, not in logic. It speaks through your chest, not your mind. When you feel a gentle pull towards something unexplained, that is your inner voice. When something feels wrong, even if it looks right, that is your inner voice. When a decision feels heavy in your body, even if your mind says yes, that heaviness is your inner voice saying no. When a path feels alive, expansive, almost luminous, that is your inner voice saying this is your way. Let me give you an image. Imagine standing in a dense forest at night, lost. You have no map, there is no path. The darkness surrounds you, but then a small light appears inside you. It is not a torch, it is not a lantern, it is a flame that does not illuminate everything at once. It only lights the next step, just one step. But that one step is enough, because each time you take it, the flame moves with you and reveals the next step. This is how the inner voice guides you. Not with a clear plan, but with a living direction. The mind hates this. The mind wants the full map. The mind wants certainty. The mind wants guarantees. But the inner voice does not offer guarantees. It offers truth. And truth is alive. Truth unfolds. Truth reveals itself moment by moment. And when you learn to trust this unfolding, you begin to live in a way you never have before. Light on your feet, open in your heart, free in your choices. And here is the most important thing. Your inner voice has no interest in your fear. It has no patience for your conditioning. It has no attachment to your old identity. It cares only for your aliveness. It cares only for your expansion. It cares only for your authenticity. It will lead you away from anything that kills your spirit, even if your mind clings to it. It will lead you toward anything that makes you feel real, even if your fear resists it. If you are ready to listen to this voice, if you are ready to clear the debris from your stream, then you must make a commitment to yourself. And you can seal that commitment by sharing this message. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Share it as an act of service, an act of waking others up. When you help others wake up, you wake up a little more yourself. Now that you have begun to feel the presence of this inner voice, we can move into the next truth. What it actually means to live from presence rather than memory, because returning to the inner voice is only the beginning. To live your life, you must stop repeating your past. You must stop being a museum of old thoughts. You must step into the living moment. Now that you've begun to hear the quiet whisper of your inner voice again, now that the soft pull of your own being has become just a little clearer, we can step into one of the most transformative truths of all. Life only happens in the present moment. And yet, almost every human being lives in memory. They live in echoes. They live in the dust of yesterday. They wake up each day, but they do not meet the day. They meet their past. They meet their patterns. They meet their history. They meet the same old stories playing in their minds like broken records. And because they live from memory, they cannot experience life. They can only repeat it. Let me take you into this slowly, gently, like walking through a doorway into a new landscape. Memory is not bad. Memory is beautiful. Memory is useful. Memory is your personal archive, a treasure chest of experience. But memory was never meant to be the driver of your life. It was meant to be the library you visit, not the compass you follow. The moment memory takes the wheel, the present moment becomes blurry, distant, unreachable. When you live from memory, you are not living, you are reliving. Most people think they are living their lives, but in truth, they are only living their past again and again. They respond to new situations based on old fears. They enter relationships carrying old wounds. They reject opportunities based on old failures. They silence themselves because of old judgments. They choose safety because of old pain. They let memory make their choices, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Your mind is like a projector and memory is the film. If you do not become aware, you watch the same scenes over and over, thinking it is reality. You see the world not as it is, but as you have been conditioned to see it. You look at today through the lens of yesterday. And this is why life feels dull, repetitive, predictable, because you are not meeting life. You are meeting your memory of life. But presence is different. Presence is the fresh wind blowing through your being. Presence is the moment when your mind stops replaying and you begin to feel what is actually here. Presence is the child inside you waking up again. Not the small child defined by age, but the timeless child defined by wonder. Presence is life in its purest form, before thought, before judgment, before fear, before memory. Let me give you an image. Imagine a painter standing before a blank canvas. If he paints from memory, he will recreate old images, old shapes, old colors. Even if he tries to be new, the brush follows familiar patterns. But if he paints from presence, from the living moment, from the feeling in his body, the movement of his breath, the aliveness in his hand, something fresh emerges, something unexpected, something alive. Life is the canvas. Presence is the paint. Memory is yesterday's pattern repeated again. And here is the truth that most people never hear. You cannot live fully while looking backward. You cannot feel alive while carrying the weight of your past on your shoulders. You cannot create a new life with old thoughts. Memory has its place, but it is not this moment. This moment is untouched. This moment is unscarred. This moment is alive. When you enter presence, you meet life directly, not through a filter, not through a lens, not through a story, directly. Presence is what brings color back into your life. When you are present, a simple breath feels sacred. A cup of tea becomes a meditation. The sound of leaves becomes music. A conversation becomes an awakening. Presence turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Presence turns your life from black and white to radiant color. Presence opens the world. Remember a child playing. When a child plays, they are not thinking of yesterday. They are not worrying about tomorrow. They are not comparing themselves to others. They are not analyzing their performance. They are simply absorbed, totally, fully, beautifully in the moment. And that total absorption is joy. That total absorption is aliveness. That total absorption is presence. You still have this capacity. It has not died. It has only been buried under years of noise. Presence is the bridge between your inner voice and your outer life. Without presence, the whisper of the soul cannot guide you. Without presence, you cannot hear the truth beneath the chatter. Without presence, you cannot step out of routine and into real life. Presence is the doorway through which you re-enter your true existence. If you wish to deepen your understanding of presence, if you wish to learn the techniques of quieting the mind to hear the soul, consider purchasing our specialized ebooks. They are crafted not to give you more knowledge, but to help you drop the knowledge that burdens you. Check the description and see if a title calls to your spirit. And now, as presence begins to awaken inside you, we move into another essential truth. You cannot live fully while wearing masks. You cannot feel alive while hiding. You cannot meet life if you are not willing to show yourself to it. The next step on this journey is removing the masks you have worn for so long that even you forgot your true face. Let us walk into that together. Now that you have begun to taste the power of presence, now that you understand life only becomes real when you stop replaying your past, we step into one of the most challenging and liberating parts of this entire journey: dropping the masks. For your whole life, you have been taught to present a certain face to the world. Not your true face, but the acceptable one, the polite one, the strong one, the capable one, the agreeable one. The version of you that keeps the peace, earns approval, avoids judgment, and fits neatly into the roles that society carved out for you long before you ever had a chance to choose. And here is the truth, spoken gently but without hesitation. You cannot live fully while hiding behind a mask. You cannot feel alive when your real self is locked behind a wall of performance. You cannot experience freedom when your identity is built on what others expect of you instead of what your soul longs to express. Masks protect you, yes, but they also imprison you. They may shield you from rejection, but they also shield you from connection. They may help you survive, but they keep you from living. Let us sit with this. You wear different masks for different people. One for your family, one for your friends, one for your partner, one for your work, one for strangers, and one for yourself. When you look in the mirror, you change your voice. You change your posture, you change your thoughts, you change your truth, not because you are dishonest, but because you are afraid to be yourself, afraid to be seen, afraid to be vulnerable, afraid to be judged, afraid to disappoint. You learned these fears long ago, and you built masks to protect the tender parts inside you. But the tragedy is not that you wear masks. The tragedy is that you forget you are wearing them. You forget they are not your face. You forget that beneath all the layers, beneath all the roles, beneath all the expectations, there is a living being waiting to breathe. A being who has been suffocating under the weight of your own self-protection. Imagine a man who holds a mask to his face every day for so long that his muscles begin to shape themselves around it. The mask becomes familiar, the mask becomes comforting. Eventually the mask becomes his identity. He forgets what it feels like to move freely, to smile naturally, to express authentically. And if someone asks him to remove the mask, he panics. Not because the mask is beautiful, but because without it he feels naked. This is what happens when you cling to your masks. They become more familiar than your soul. Now let me say something that may feel uncomfortable at first. Authenticity is a risk. It always has been. It always will be. To be authentic means to stand in your truth without knowing how the world will respond. It means to speak from your heart without the guarantee of approval. It means to allow yourself to be vulnerable, open, unarmored. And this is why so few people choose authenticity. They would rather be accepted than real. They would rather be praised than alive. They would rather be safe than free. But when you drop the mask, even for a moment, something miraculous happens. The air becomes lighter. Your breath becomes deeper. Your chest softens. You feel a spaciousness inside you that has been missing for years. You feel yourself returning to yourself. You feel the energy of truth moving through you. Even if the world does not understand you, even if some people pull away, even if fear rises in your throat, there is still something inside you that whispers, this is me. Authenticity is not about showing everything to everyone. It is not about being reckless. It is about no longer hiding yourself from yourself. It is about aligning your outer actions with your inner truth. It is about meeting life as you are, not as you think you should be. When you drop the mask, you reclaim your power. You reclaim your joy. You reclaim your aliveness. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a tree trying to grow while wrapped tightly in ropes. It strains, it bends, it twists itself unnaturally to accommodate the restrictions. But when the ropes are cut away, the tree does not grow timidly. It does not apologize. It expands. It straightens. It reaches toward the light with a strength that was always inside it, but never allowed to flourish. This is what happens to you when you drop the masks. The expansion is natural. The growth is effortless. The freedom is profound. If this image of the tree breaking its ropes speaks to you, if you feel the ropes tightening around your own chest, take a moment to interact with this video. Leave a comment below. Just write, I choose freedom. Writing it down is the first cut of the rope. It is a declaration to the universe that you are ready to expand. Now that the masks have begun to loosen around you, now that you have started to sense the possibility of living without the weight of pretense, we can take the next step. One that requires bravery, yes, but also brings the deepest fulfillment, the courage to choose your path. Because even after you reveal your true face, even after you hear your inner voice, even after you awaken from your sleep, nothing changes unless you choose. Let us walk toward that choice. Now that the masks have begun to fall away, now that you felt the rawness, the freshness, the trembling truth of standing even briefly in your real self, we arrive at the moment that separates those who wake up from those who merely open their eyes. Awakening does not end with awareness. Awakening begins with action, and action requires courage. Not the loud courage of battlefields and declarations, but the quiet courage of choosing your own life, the courage to take a step that no one may understand, the courage to walk in a direction your mind fears but your soul recognizes. Let us move slowly into this. Everyone believes they're choosing their life, but most people only choose from a menu handed to them by others. They choose what is expected, not what is true. They choose what is safe, not what is alive. They choose what makes sense to others, not what sings to their heart. True choosing is rare. True choosing is dangerous. True choosing is sacred. Choosing your path means looking at your life with honesty and asking, is this mine? Is this work mine? Is this relationship mine? Is this daily routine mine? Are these dreams mine? Are these fears mine? Are these beliefs mine? For most people, the answer is no. but they continue anyway because the cost of change seems too great, and so they live half lives, lives that follow the shape of someone else's choices. But let me tell you something essential. Every day is a fork in the road. Every breath is a moment where you can choose truth over habit. Every morning is an invitation to begin again. You are not as trapped as you think. You are only trapped inside a pattern you have repeated so many times that it feels like fate. But fate is simply the name we give to a long-standing habit, and habits can be changed. Let me give you an image. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest. There is a path before you, wide and well-trodden, used by thousands before you. This is the path of expectation, the path of obedience, the path of the borrowed self. It feels safe because others walk it. It feels familiar because you have walked it many times, but it leads nowhere new. It leads only deeper into the life you already know, the life that suffocates your spirit. Now imagine turning your head slightly to the right. You see a small opening through the trees. Not a path yet, just an invitation. Leaves cover the ground. Branches lie across it. It looks wild, uncertain, unpredictable, and yet something inside you recognizes it instantly. It feels like home, it feels like possibility, it feels like truth. This is your path, and the moment you step into it, the moment your foot touches that wild earth, the forest begins to open itself for you. As you walk, the path forms. This is what choosing your path feels like. At first, it seems like there is no path, but the moment you decide, the moment you commit, the moment you say yes to your soul instead of your fear, life responds. The universe rearranges itself around your intention. People you need appear. Opportunities arise. Synchronicities multiply. The mysterious intelligence of existence begins guiding your steps in ways your logical mind could never predict. But none of this happens until you choose, and choosing requires courage, because choosing means letting go of approval, letting go of old identities, letting go of comfort, letting go of the illusion that you can please everyone. Letting go of the idea that your value depends on being understood. Letting go of the safety of the known. Choosing your path is an act of rebellion. It is an act of love. It is an act of trust. It is the moment you say, I will no longer betray myself for belonging. I will no longer shrink to fit into a life that does not fit me. I will no longer live in cages built from fear. It is the moment you step out of the story you inherited and begin writing the story you were born to live. And here is the most beautiful part. Courage grows through action. You do not need to feel courageous to act. You act and courage follows. You take one small step and the next step becomes easier. You make one honest choice and your inner strength grows. You speak one truth and your voice becomes steadier. Courage is not something you wait for. Courage is something you create by living truthfully. If you're standing at this fork in the road, if you're looking at the wild path and feeling the pull, then let this community support you. Subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you are surrounding yourself with others who have also chosen the wild path. You are not alone in this forest. Now that this courage has begun to awaken in you, now that you felt the stirring of a path that belongs to you and only you, we can move into the next phase of this journey, living with intensity and awareness, living with such depth and such presence that every moment becomes a doorway into your real life. Let us step through that doorway together. Now that you have felt the courage rising inside you, Now that you have sensed the possibility of choosing your own path, we come to a moment that is as simple as breath and as powerful as lightning. A moment that can transform your life more deeply than any philosophy, any plan, any ritual. It is the moment of saying yes to life again. Not a polite yes, not a half-hearted yes, not a yes spoken from fear or obligation. I am speaking of the yes that comes from the soul, the yes that opens your chest, the yes that dissolves the walls you built around yourself, the yes that creates space for life to rush in like a river finally breaking through a dam. Let us sit with this. Life is always calling you. Every day, in 1,000 small ways, life invites you into aliveness. It whispers through opportunities. It nudges you through intuition. It stirs you through longing. It speaks through dissatisfaction. It knocks through boredom. It shouts through the ache of a life half lived. But because you have been trained to fear your own desires, because you have been taught to distrust your instincts, because you have spent years choosing routine over risk, you have forgotten how to say yes. The yes I am speaking of is not about recklessness. It is not about chasing sensation. It is not about throwing yourself into chaos. The yes I am speaking of is a shift in your being. It is openness. It is receptivity. It is the courage to meet life without shrinking. It is the willingness to let experience touch you deeply. It is the readiness to let go of the tight grip you have on how things should be and instead allow life to be what it is. When you say yes from your soul, something inside you lights up. You become more sensitive, not less. You become more alive, not more guarded. You begin to notice beauty in small moments. You feel gratitude without effort. You feel wonder returning to your eyes like a child rediscovering the world after a long sleep. Saying yes is how the heart opens, and an open heart is the birthplace of every miracle. Let me give you an image. Imagine a door that has been closed for years. Behind the door is sunlight, warmth, fresh air. But you have grown used to the darkness inside your small room. One day you feel a soft breeze coming through the cracks of the door. It carries a scent, flowers, earth, possibility. Something inside you remembers. You place your hand on the doorknob. It is warm. You turn it slowly. The hinges creak. Light spills into the room, filling it with colors you forgot existed. This moment, the moment the door opens, is the moment of yes. Before stepping through, before knowing what lies outside, the yes itself transforms you. When you say yes to life, life responds. Opportunities appear where none existed. People enter your life carrying the exact energy you need. Unexpected paths open. Synchronicities multiply. You begin to feel supported by existence rather than fighting against it. It is not magic, it is alignment. Life cannot give you anything if you are closed. The moment you open, life rushes toward you. And here is the surprising truth. Saying yes is not something you do once. It is something you do again and again in every moment. Each breath is a chance to say yes to being here. Each decision is a chance to say yes to truth. Each feeling is a chance to say yes to your experience instead of numbing it. Each opportunity is a chance to say yes to growth instead of running back to comfort. Saying yes is a practice. Saying yes is a way of living. But saying yes requires awareness. You must be present to feel the invitation. You cannot say yes to life if you are lost in memory or fear. You cannot say yes if you are distracted. You cannot say yes if you are hiding from yourself. The yes is born in presence. And once presence is alive in you, even the smallest moments become sacred. This leads us naturally into the next truth. Once you say yes to life, once you open yourself again, you begin to see something extraordinary. Every moment, even the simplest, most ordinary moment, becomes sacred. Not because the moment changes, but because you do. Let us move into that sacredness. Now that you have begun saying yes to life again, now that the door of your being has cracked open and the first rays of aliveness have started to seep in, we enter a truth so quiet, so simple, and yet so transformative that most people overlook it entirely. Awareness makes everything sacred, not some things, not only the beautiful moments, the special moments, the dramatic moments. Awareness makes everything sacred. The ordinary becomes luminous, the simple becomes profound, the small becomes infinite, life becomes a temple. Not because life changes, but because you change the way you meet it. Let us step into this gently, like stepping into a still lake at dawn. Awareness is presence infused with love. Awareness is the art of being here fully without drifting into the past or rushing into the future. Awareness is the ability to see, to feel, to touch life without the filters of memory, fear, or expectation. When you are aware, you taste the moment instead of thinking about it. You feel the breath instead of ignoring it. You hear the wind instead of rushing past it. You experience life directly, authentically, intimately. Most people move through life like sleepwalkers. They eat without tasting. They breathe without feeling. They speak without meaning. They listen without hearing. They look without seeing. They touch without sensing. Their days pass in a blur of unconscious motion, a series of habits executed without presence. And then they wonder why life feels empty. They wonder why joy is fleeting. They wonder why gratitude feels forced. They wonder why the world seems gray and distant. It is not the world that is colorless. It is their awareness that is dimmed. But when awareness returns, even for a moment, life awakens with you. A cup of tea becomes a meditation, the steam rising from it becomes poetry, the warmth in your hands becomes a blessing, the taste becomes a moment of gratitude that moves through your whole body. Washing dishes becomes a dance between water and skin. Walking becomes a dialogue between your feet and the earth. Breathing becomes an act of intimacy with existence. This is what awareness does. It transforms the mundane into the miraculous. Imagine a man who has lived in a dimly lit room his whole life. He knows the outlines of things. He sees shapes, forms, shadows. He navigates by bumping into furniture, by guessing where the walls are. He thinks this is reality. One day, someone opens the blinds and sunlight pours in. Suddenly, the same room reveals details he never noticed. The grain of the wood, the colors in the fabric, the softness of the dust floating in the air. Nothing in the room changed. The furniture is the same, the walls are the same, only the light changed. Awareness is this light. When you are aware, every moment becomes an opportunity to return to yourself. Every experience becomes a chance to see your mind, your reactions, your conditioning. Every emotion becomes a door to deeper understanding. Even discomfort becomes holy because awareness reveals its root. You begin to understand yourself not as a fixed identity, but as a constantly shifting, breathing, living being. You become a witness to your own experience instead of being lost inside it. Awareness is not something dramatic. It does not require retreat, ritual, or ceremony. It requires only one thing: your presence, your willingness to stop running, your willingness to feel the moment you are in. The most sacred experiences of life happen in silence, in simplicity, in slowness. You do not need to chase extraordinary events to feel alive. Awareness turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. And here is the secret most people never hear. When every moment becomes sacred, life becomes meaningful without effort. You do not need to search for purpose. You do not need to chase happiness. You do not need to fix yourself. Awareness itself is enough. Awareness is the purpose. Awareness is the meaning. Awareness is the doorway into a life that feels whole. If this light of awareness is beginning to shine in your own room, if you are starting to see the details of your life clearly for the first time, consider expressing your gratitude with a super thanks. It is a beautiful way to honor the light that has entered your life and to support the spreading of this light to others. But to live in awareness, you must face something that humans fear more than anything else: death. Because only by understanding death can you truly understand life. Only by accepting silence can you hear the truth. Only by facing the end can you live without holding back. Let us walk into the truth of death now, not as an end, but as a beginning. Now that awareness has begun to open inside you, now that the ordinary moments of your life have started to regain their color, their depth, their quiet sacredness, we stand before one of the most profound thresholds of human existence. To live fully, you must confront the one truth that no one wants to touch, the truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You will die. Your body will fall away. Your breath will stop. Everything you cling to, everything you fear, everything you postpone, everything you run from will dissolve in that final moment. And until you face this truth, life will always feel distant, fragile, half-lived, because the fear of death is the root of the fear of life. Let us enter this slowly, as if stepping into a deep cave with a single candle in your hand. Most people do not truly live because they are terrified of losing what they have. They cling to comfort because it feels safe. They cling to routines because change feels like danger. They cling to relationships, identities, roles, and beliefs because the unknown feels like an abyss. But the unknown is not the abyss. The unknown is life itself. The abyss is the fear that keeps you from entering it. The fear of death makes you shrink your existence. It makes you avoid risk, avoid passion, avoid truth. It makes you choose security over freedom, routine over adventure, imitation over authenticity. It makes you say not today to your dreams. It makes you wait for the perfect moment. It makes you postpone joy. It makes you withhold love. It makes you walk gently around your own soul, as if living too fully might awaken something dangerous inside you. But here is the irony. Death is the only thing that makes life precious. Death is the fire that gives color to every breath, every touch, every sunrise. Death is the reminder that this moment, this very moment, is all you have. You cannot hold moments. You cannot save them for later. You cannot store life like money in a bank. Life is happening now. It is always happening now. And when you open your eyes to the reality of death, you stop waiting for permission to live. Imagine a man who believes he will live forever. He puts off everything: joy, love, adventure, truth. He thinks there will always be time later. So he moves slowly, carefully, without intensity. He takes tiny sips of life as if there is an endless supply. He engages in petty arguments because he thinks he has time to waste. He holds grudges because he thinks he has time to forgive. He stays in a job he hates because he thinks he has time to change. But imagine another man who knows he may die tonight. He will not waste a single breath. He will not speak words he does not mean. He will not delay what needs to be lived. He will not postpone his soul. He will drink from life as if it were the sweetest nectar, and each drop will feel infinite. When you face death, something inside you cracks open, not in despair, but in awakening. You feel urgency, not the frantic urgency of fear, but the deep urgency of truth. You understand that every moment matters. You realize that regret is born not from failure, but from postponement. You see that life is far too precious to be wasted on pretending, pleasing, conforming, shrinking. Awareness of death gives birth to courage. Awareness of death frees your heart. Awareness of death makes you present, tender, awake. Let me tell you something. I have spoken often. Only the dead fear death. What I mean is that when you are not truly living, when you are following routines, wearing masks, repeating old patterns, you are already half dead. And so of course you fear the final death because you have not yet lived. You are afraid to leave the party before you have even tasted the wine. But when you are alive, when your soul is awake, when your heart is open, when your being is moving in truth, death becomes a mirror, not an enemy. It becomes a reminder of the miracle of your existence. When you accept death, you do not become depressed. You become free. Free to love fully, free to create boldly, free to speak truth without hesitation, free to walk your path without apology, free to experience joy without guilt, free to let life touch you deeply, free to stop pretending, free to stop waiting. If you are ready to embrace this freedom, if you are ready to look into the mirror of death and see life, then make a commitment to go deeper. Click the join button, become a member. This is not about status, it is about gathering with those who are brave enough to face reality. It is about saying, I am here to live. Picture the sky, imagine soaring above the clouds. Below you, storms rage, winds scream. The world is chaotic, but high above, a bird flies effortlessly. Not because the storms disappeared, but because it rose above them. When you accept death, you rise above fear. You rise above hesitation. You rise above the storms of your mind. And now that you have lifted your gaze beyond fear, now that the truth of death has untied something tight inside you, we move into the next revelation, the joy of being fully alive. Because once you face death, life becomes a celebration, not a struggle. Let us enter that celebration now. Now that you have looked into the face of death, now that you felt that quiet, trembling liberation that comes when you stop pretending you have forever, we can finally enter the most beautiful part of this journey, the joy of being fully alive. Not the shallow happiness the world sells you, not the excitement that depends on entertainment or consumption, not the temporary pleasure that fades as quickly as it arrives. I'm speaking of joy, pure, natural, effortless joy. The joy that rises from your being when you stop resisting life. The joy that has no cause, no condition, no story. The joy that comes from simply being. Let us move into this, like stepping into warm sunlight after a long, cold night. When you stop fearing death, you no longer shrink from life. You begin to taste everything more deeply. You notice colors more vividly. You feel emotions more honestly. You breathe with a fullness you haven't felt since childhood. You begin to walk through the world with an openness that softens everything it touches. Life stops feeling like a burden and instead feels like a gift, one you can finally receive with your whole being. This joy is not loud, it is not dramatic, it does not shout or demand attention, it hums, it moves silently beneath the surface like a warm river flowing through your chest. It makes ordinary moments shimmer, it makes simple things feel sacred, it makes you grateful without effort. You find yourself smiling for no reason while washing dishes, while tying your shoes, while listening to the wind. This joy is not something you chase, it is something you remember. Imagine a child laughing, not because something funny happened, but because their whole being is alive with wonder. A child sees magic everywhere. A stone, a shadow, a leaf, a raindrop. They do not need anything extraordinary to feel joy. They are extraordinary. Their joy comes from presence, from innocence, from being unburdened by the weight of fear and memory. When you return to presence, you return to this childlike state, not childishness, childlikeness, the ability to meet life openly without the armor that adulthood forces upon you. If you have forgotten how to access this joy, if you feel the armor is too heavy to remove alone, we have guides for you. Our ebooks on meditation and rediscovering inner joy are written to help you dissolve the armor. Check the description. Sometimes all you need is a reminder of what you already know. When you live fully, joy flows naturally because you are no longer trying to control life. You are no longer trying to force outcomes. You are no longer trying to micromanage your destiny. Joy comes when you surrender. Joy comes when you are soft. Joy comes when you stop using your mind as a shield against existence. Joy comes when you allow yourself to feel everything without running. Even sadness becomes sacred. Even disappointment becomes a teacher. Even pain becomes a doorway. When you stop resisting your experience, joy appears in the spaces where resistance used to live. Let me give you an image. Picture a lotus flower rising from the mud. The mud is your past, your conditioning, your fears. The lotus grows through it, not by fighting the mud, but by accepting its presence and moving upward. And when the lotus emerges and opens its petals to the sun, it does not congratulate itself, it does not explain itself. It simply exists, soft, open, radiant. This is what joy feels like when you are fully alive. You are not joyful because of something, you are joyful as something. And here is something few people understand. Joy is not the opposite of pain. Joy is the opposite of numbness. When you numb your pain, you numb your joy. When you avoid discomfort, you also avoid bliss. When you suppress your emotions, you suppress your aliveness. To be fully alive means you feel everything more deeply, but with awareness, with spaciousness, with compassion. Pain loses its sharpness. Joy becomes your resting state. Life, even in its storms, feels meaningful. When you are fully alive, your relationships change. You listen with your whole being. You speak from your heart. You connect without fear. You stop performing. You begin to love not as a bargain, but as a gift. Presence makes love effortless. Your creativity changes. Ideas flow without resistance. You feel inspired, not pressured. Work becomes play. Effort becomes expression. You stop forcing yourself and start allowing yourself. Your sense of self changes. You stop pretending. You stop comparing. You stop chasing. You stop apologizing for your existence. You begin to feel your own presence, like a soft glow in your chest. You begin to inhabit your life the way a dancer inhabits a movement. with total surrender, total awareness, total joy. And once you taste this joy, once you feel this aliveness, even for a moment, it becomes impossible to go back to sleep. You will try, you will fall into old patterns, you will get lost, but somewhere the memory of that aliveness will remain like a bell ringing in the distance, and eventually the bell will call you back. Now that you've tasted this aliveness, we move into the final chapter of this journey. How to ensure you never return to the half-life again. How to live without regret. How to rise into a life so true, so honest, so aligned with your being that when your final day comes, you will meet it without fear, without sorrow, without the heaviness of, "I wish I had lived more." Let us enter that final truth. Now that you have felt the taste of true aliveness, now that the warmth of presence and the quiet joy of existence have begun to awaken inside you, it is time to turn toward a truth that most people spend their entire lives running from. Not because they are weak, but because this truth hurts in a way nothing else does. It hurts quietly, it hurts slowly, it hurts in the places that stay hidden from others. It is the pain of looking back at your life and realizing you did not live it. Not fully, not honestly, not courageously. It is the pain of a half-lived life. This pain does not arrive suddenly. It creeps in like evening shadows stretching across the floor. It begins with small regrets, moments where you stayed silent when your heart wanted to speak, choices where you chose safety over truth, days where you followed your routine instead of your intuition, opportunities you let slip because you were afraid of stepping into the unknown. At first, these moments seem harmless. You tell yourself, next time, later, tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes years, and those small regrets accumulate like dust on the soul, thickening, dimming, dulling the spark inside you. Let us sit with this honestly, without judgment. At some point in your life, perhaps more than once, you have felt a quiet ache, a whisper that says, "I am not living the life I am meant to live." You feel it when you wake up tired, not from lack of sleep, but from lack of purpose. You feel it when your days taste the same, even when nothing is wrong. You feel it when you look at your younger self and realize how many dreams you allowed to fade. You feel it when you think of all the versions of yourself you abandoned in order to fit in, to be accepted, to be safe. This pain is not dramatic, it does not scream, it does not shatter your world. Instead, it lingers quietly like a low hum behind everything you do. You can distract yourself from it through work, entertainment, relationships, achievements. But distraction is never nourishment. Eventually, when the noise fades, the ache returns. Because the pain of a half-lived life is a conversation between your soul and your unconscious. A conversation saying, "Wake up, this is not it. This is not what you were born for." Imagine an old man sitting by a window staring at the late afternoon light. His hands are wrinkled, his breath is slow, his memories drift in and out of his mind like clouds. And suddenly a single realization takes hold of him, a realization more painful than any physical suffering he has ever known. I have lived safely, but I have not lived. He remembers the chances he didn't take, the love he didn't express, the risks he avoided, the dreams he talked himself out of, the truths he swallowed, the adventures he postponed. And now, standing at the edge of his life, he sees that safety was the most expensive choice he ever made. This pain is the most human pain, the pain of unlived days, the pain of missed chances, the pain of becoming someone you never intended to be. And yet this pain is also the most sacred pain, because it is the one pain that can wake you up completely. When you feel this pain fully, without hiding, without numbing, without running, you begin to sense the urgency of your own existence. You begin to understand that life is not infinite. You begin to see that every day you postpone your aliveness is a day that will never return. You begin to feel the fire that says, "Not one more day like this." Let me give you an image. Imagine an artist who spends his life painting the same picture again and again because it is what sells, because it is what people expect, because it is what feels safe. At the end of his life, he stands before the thousands of identical paintings he has created, and suddenly he realizes, "I never painted what was truly in my heart." That realization breaks him, not because he failed, but because he never truly tried. This is the pain of a half-lived life. But hear this deeply, the pain you feel now is not a punishment, it is a doorway. It is life tapping on your shoulder saying, "You still have time." It is your soul saying, "I am still here." It is existence saying, "Begin now." And the fact that you are feeling this pain today, not someday, far in the future, means something in you is waking up in time. Something in you is rebelling against the sleep you've lived in. Something in you is ready to rise. Now that you have looked honestly at the pain of living half a life, we can enter the next truth, the one that dissolves regret, awakens courage, and transforms every breath you take. Learning to live as if today were your last. Let us walk there gently with open eyes and an open heart. Now that you have faced the quiet ache of a half-lived life, now that the truth of wasted days and postponed dreams has begun to stir something deep inside you, we can step into one of the most powerful awakenings a human being can experience, living as if today were your last day. Not as a dramatic idea, not as a poetic line, not as a forced practice, but as a living, breathing way of being. Because when you truly understand that death can come at any moment, softly, unexpectedly, silently, your whole approach to life changes. Your choices change, your priorities change, your fears lose their grip, and your heart becomes astonishingly clear. Let us move quietly into this truth like entering a sacred temple. Most people live as if they will live forever. They postpone joy because they imagine they'll have time later. They postpone truth because they imagine the perfect moment will come. They postpone love because they imagine the other person already knows, or that there will be a better time to speak it. They postpone their dreams because they imagine the future will be more convenient, more stable, more certain. They spend their entire lives waiting for the right time, not realizing the right time is always now. But imagine just for a moment that today is your last day, not in a depressing way, but in a clarifying way. Imagine waking up with the absolute knowledge that this sunrise is the final sunrise you will ever see. How would you live? Would you rush? Would you hide? Would you waste time worrying about what others think? Would you scroll through distractions? Would you argue about trivial things? Would you suppress your feelings? Would you swallow your truth? Would you postpone anything? No. You would live with totality. You would live with honesty. You would live with presence. You would live with love. When you live your day as if it were your last, every moment becomes sacred. Every breath becomes precious. Every interaction becomes meaningful. You stop sleepwalking. You stop postponing. You stop living on the surface. You drop into the depth of your own being. Small things matter. Moments slow down. The world feels alive again. You feel alive again. And something extraordinary happens. Fear loses its voice. Because when there is no tomorrow to protect, fear has nothing to hold on to. You realize that most of your fears are rooted not in the present moment, but in an imagined future. When the future disappears, fear dissolves. What remains is clarity. What remains is courage. What remains is truth. Imagine a man standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean. He knows this is his final morning. He breathes in the scent of salt, the sound of waves, the warmth of sunlight on his skin. He feels gratitude for everything, the beauty, the pain, the lessons, the mistakes, the love. There is no regret because he is feeling everything fully. The clarity that comes in that last moment, the understanding that life is too short to live dishonestly, can be yours now without waiting for the final breath. When you live this way, you begin to speak differently. You say what needs to be said. You apologize when your heart feels heavy. You forgive without needing an apology in return. You tell people you love them while they can still hear it. You follow your intuition even when it scares you. You take risks you avoided for years. You honor your desires instead of suppressing them. You stop pretending, you stop performing, you stop living someone else's script. Let me give you an image. Imagine a candle burning in a dark room. If you believe the candle will last forever, you will barely notice its flame. You will ignore it. You might even leave the room. But if you know the flame could go out at any moment, you will sit closer to it, you will protect it, you will cherish its warmth, you will admire its glow, you will be fascinated by the dance of the light. Life is this candle, fragile, beautiful, temporary. And when you remember this, your appreciation deepens in ways you cannot imagine. When you live as if today is your last day, you become simple. Not simple in a small way, but simple in the way of truth. You drop what is unnecessary. You stop complicating yourself. You let go of burdens that were never yours. You stop living in your head and return to your heart. Life becomes lighter, softer, truer. And the beautiful paradox is this: when you live each day as if it were your last, you actually begin to live longer. Not in years, but in depth. Every moment becomes rich. Every experience becomes full. You live more in one day of awareness than most people live in a year of routine. The quality of your life expands. The intensity of your aliveness increases. You move from existence into experience, from time into eternity. If you are ready to light your candle, if you are ready to stop postponing your life, show your commitment. Subscribe to this channel. Let this be a digital sanctuary where you remind yourself daily of the value of your time. By subscribing, you are saying, I will not waste my candle. Now that you have felt the truth of living your last day, we can enter the final step. The one that dissolves regret completely, the one that makes your life your own, the one that lifts you out of the old patterns forever, choosing aliveness over comfort, choosing truth over habit, choosing expansion over safety, choosing life over the familiar. Let us walk into that final transformation together, now that you have tasted the fire of living your last day, now that you have felt the clarity, the urgency, the raw honesty that arises when you stop pretending tomorrow is guaranteed. We arrive at the final threshold of this journey, choosing aliveness over comfort. And this, my friend, is where most people turn back. This is where the old habits pull hardest. This is where the familiar whispers seductively, promising safety, promising predictability, promising ease. But I will tell you the truth without softening it. Comfort is the greatest thief of life. Comfort is the silent killer of dreams. Comfort is the soft, warm coffin that holds millions of living people who never realized they had died inside their routines. Let us walk gently but truthfully here. Comfort feels good in the beginning. It soothes, it numbs, it offers a sense of control. It allows you to avoid risk, avoid uncertainty, avoid failure. But comfort has a price, and the price is your aliveness. When you choose comfort again and again, you shrink, you dim your own flame, you silence your potential. You trade the infinite possibilities of your soul for the narrow confines of safety. And safety, when clung to, becomes a cage. Think of your own life. Think of the moments when you knew you needed to take a leap, when your whole being whispered yes, but your fear whispered no, and you chose no. How many times have you done this? How many times have you betrayed your own instincts? How many times have you abandoned yourself in the name of feeling secure? And what did that security cost you? Maybe it cost you a relationship, maybe it cost you a dream, maybe it cost you your joy, maybe it cost you the person you could have become. Imagine a bird who never learns to fly. It sits in the nest long after its wings have grown strong enough to carry it across the sky. The nest feels familiar. The twigs are arranged just so. The air outside feels dangerous. The wind feels unpredictable. The drop looks terrifying. And so the bird tells itself, I will fly tomorrow. But tomorrow comes and the bird hesitates. Tomorrow comes again and the bird hesitates again. Life passes. The bird dies in the nest, having never touched the sky. Not because it lacked wings, but because it lacked courage. Not because it couldn't fly, but because it chose the comfort of the twigs over the vastness of the air. This is the story of millions of human beings. Choosing aliveness means leaving the nest. It means stepping into the wind. It means trusting your wings even before you know how to use them. Choosing aliveness means saying yes to the path your soul recognizes, even when your mind trembles. It means choosing growth over familiarity. It means choosing discomfort when discomfort leads to expansion. It means choosing your truth over others' expectations. And here is the paradox. Choosing aliveness does not always feel good at first. Sometimes it feels terrifying. Sometimes it feels like losing control. Sometimes it feels like standing on the edge of a cliff with no guarantee that you will land safely. But underneath the fear, there is something else, something deeper, something older, something truer. There is a pulse, there is a knowing, there is a sense of destiny. You feel it in your chest, you feel it in your bones, you feel it in the silence when you let yourself listen. Let me give you an image. Imagine two paths before you. One is smooth, paved, predictable. It leads exactly where you expect it to. It holds no surprises, no danger, no magic. It is flat, it is gray, it is crowded with people walking in their sleep. This is the path of comfort. The other path is wild, uneven, beautiful, mysterious. It twists into forests you've never seen. It opens into valleys that take your breath away. It climbs mountains that challenge you. It leads you into storms and into sunlight. It leads you into yourself. This wild path is aliveness. Although the comfortable path feels safer, only the wild path leads you to your true life. Choosing aliveness means embracing uncertainty. It means letting go of control. It means trusting the unfolding of your own existence. It means understanding that life is not meant to be solved, it is meant to be lived. Comfort gives you answers. Aliveness gives you experience. Comfort protects you. Aliveness transforms you. And here is the greatest truth of all. Once you choose aliveness, comfort loses its grip. You begin to see that the moments when you felt most alive were the moments when you stepped beyond your fears. You begin to crave truth instead of safety. You begin to choose experiences that stretch you instead of routines that shrink you. You begin to live not as a frightened mind, but as an awakened soul. If you are standing at the edge of the nest, looking at the sky, and you need a gust of wind to help you fly, we have prepared something for you. In the description, you will find resources, ebooks, and guides that are designed to be the wind beneath your wings. They are not just words, they are tools for flight. Check them now if your heart is ready to leave the nest. And now, with this understanding burning inside you, we come to the final revelation, the one that completes this journey, the one that ties all the threads together, the one that transforms everything you have learned into a life you will not regret. This final truth is simple, powerful, and liberating. Your life becomes yours the moment you choose to live it without regret. Now we come to the end of this journey, and yet it is not an end at all. It is the beginning of your real life. Everything we have walked through together, the sleep, the conditioning, the masks, the fear, the forgetting, the awakening, the presence, the courage, the joy, has brought you to this moment. And this moment is the only moment that matters, because this is the moment you choose. This is the moment you say no more. No more sleep, no more postponing, no more half-life, no more living as a shadow of who I truly am. This is the moment you look at your own soul and whisper, I am ready. Let me gather everything for you now. Not as a summary, but as a truth your heart already knows. You saw how a sleeping life feels, the dull ache, the quiet emptiness, the days that repeat like copies of each other. You saw how you lost yourself under layers of conditioning, roles, fears, voices that were never yours. You saw how your inner flame dimmed slowly, quietly, as you tried to fit into a world that never fit you. And you saw the moment the lie cracked open and the light came in. The moment you began to remember your own depth, your own voice, your own wildness. You learned the power of presence. You learned how awareness turns every breath into a prayer, every moment into a doorway, every simple act into something sacred. You saw how death, when faced honestly, frees you from the fear of living. You felt what it means to be fully alive, not through noise, not through stimulation, but through the silent joy that rises from your being when you stop resisting life. And you tasted the truth that regret is not born from failure, but from forgetting. Forgetting your courage, forgetting your truth, forgetting your own soul. Regret comes from choosing comfort instead of aliveness. But today you remembered. Today you woke up. Today you touched the fire inside you. So now I leave you with something simple, something true, something that can guide your entire life if you let it settle inside your chest. Do not wait to live, not tomorrow, not when things are perfect, not when you feel ready, not when the fear goes away. Life is not later, life is here, life is now, life is this breath moving through you. And if you can hold that, if you can let that truth touch your heart, you will live a life without regret, because regret cannot exist in a person who chooses their life fully, moment by moment, breath by breath. This is your invitation. The door is open, the sky is waiting, the chains are unlocked. Will you pick them up again, or will you walk away? The choice, my friend, has always been yours. If this journey has touched you, if you feel a shift in your energy, do not let it end here. Engage with us. Leave a comment below telling us one thing you will stop postponing today. Your comment is a vow to yourself. And remember, the super thanks button is there for those who wish to express their gratitude in a tangible way. It supports us, but more importantly, it confirms to the universe that you value this wisdom. For those who want to go deeper, who want to make this awakening a permanent state, our join membership offers a path of continued guidance. And do not forget the ebooks in the description. They are the maps for the territory you are now entering. You are not alone. You are loved. You are alive. Now, go and live. But wait, do not turn away just yet. Because the moment you step out that door, the moment you return to the world with this new fire in your chest, you will face the greatest challenge of all. And if I do not warn you, if I do not prepare you for this, the flame we have kindled together might be extinguished by the winds of the world. To wake up is one thing, to stay awake in a sleeping world is another. Let us enter the next level of this reality. You are going back into a world that is designed to put you to sleep. You are going back to people who are comfortable in their comas. You are going back to a society that rewards obedience and punishes authenticity. How do you survive? How do you keep your aliveness when everyone around you is dead? How do you remain a lotus flower when you are surrounded by mud? This is where the real work begins. This is where spirituality moves from being a concept to being a practice. When you go back to your family, to your job, to your friends, you will feel a friction. You will feel a distance. You might feel like a stranger in your own home. And the mind will panic. The mind will say, something is wrong. I am losing connection. But hear me, nothing is wrong. This distance is necessary. You are feeling the distance because you have moved. They are standing still and you are walking. Of course, there is distance. Do not try to bridge it by going back to sleep. Do not try to close the gap by shrinking yourself again. Most people, when they feel this loneliness of the awakened one, rush back to the crowd. They apologize for their light. They dim their eyes. They pretend to care about trivial things just to fit in. Do not do this. The loneliness you feel is not a punishment. It is a purification. You must learn to be a stranger. To be a stranger means you are in the world, but not of the world. You play the game, but you know it is a game. You fulfill your roles. Father, mother, worker, friend, but you know that deep down you are none of these roles. You are the witness behind them. This is the art of acting. A great actor cries on stage, laughs on stage, fights on stage, but deep inside he knows he is not the character. He remains untouched. If he forgets he is acting, he becomes insane. If he remains aware, he is an artist. Become an artist of your life. When you go to work tomorrow, act. Do the work totally, but do not let the work enter your soul. When you sit with your family, be with them totally, but do not let their unconsciousness drag you down. Keep your inner sanctuary invalid. And here is the hardest part. You must stop judging them. When you first wake up, the ego likes to play a trick. It likes to feel superior. You look at others and think, they are asleep, they are zombies, I am awake. This is the spiritual ego, and it is more dangerous than the ordinary ego. The ordinary ego is like a rock, you can see it. The spiritual ego is like glass, you cannot see it, but it cuts you just the same. Do not judge the sleepers. You were one of them just a moment ago. Have compassion. Walk among them gently. Be a light, not a judge. A light does not criticize the darkness. It simply shines, and by shining, it transforms the darkness. If you can be in the crowd and keep your center, if you can be surrounded by noise and keep your silence, then you have attained something real. This is what I call Zorba the Buddha. To be a Zorba means to love the earth, to love the body, to love food, to love dance, to love the tangible, visible world. To be a Buddha means to love the sky, to love silence, to love awareness, to love the invisible. For centuries, religions have told you to choose. They said, if you want God, renounce the world. If you want the world, forget God. I say to you, choose both. Why be poor? Why choose only half of life? Be total. Be a materialist and a spiritualist. Enjoy your morning coffee with the mindfulness of a monk. Do your work with the creativity of a poet. Make love with the reverence of a prayer. Do not divide your life into spiritual time and ordinary time. That division is the root of schizophrenia. If you can bring the quality of meditation into the marketplace, you become alive in a way the monk in the cave never can. His silence is fragile. It depends on the absence of noise. Your silence becomes strong. It exists in the midst of noise. Let us look deeper into relationships, because this is where most people lose their way. When you start to live fully, your relationships will change. They must change, because most human relationships are not based on love. They are based on need. They are based on fear. They are based on two beggars trying to steal from each other's empty pockets. You say, I love you, but what you mean is, I need you to make me feel safe. I need you to make me feel valuable. I need you to never leave me. This is not love. This is a contract. This is mutual exploitation. And because it is based on need, it is always full of conflict, jealousy, possessiveness, and fear. But when you wake up, when you start to feed your own soul, you no longer need another person to complete you. You are complete in yourself. You are overflowing. And only a person who is capable of being alone is capable of love. This sounds like a paradox, but it is the truth. If you cannot be alone, if you panic when the room is empty, then you move toward people out of fear. And how can love grow from fear? You cling to them, you suffocate them, you control them, you turn the other person into an object, a security blanket. But if you are happy in your aloneness, if you are full of your own presence, then you move toward others not to get, but to share. You have so much joy, so much silence, so much love that you want to pour it into someone else. This is love. Love is a luxury. It is an overflow. It is what happens when you are so full of life that you cannot contain it. When you return to your relationships now, do not ask, what can I get? Ask, what can I give? Do not ask, do they understand me? Ask, can I see them clearly? You might find that some people fall away. People who liked your mask may not like your face. People who liked your obedience may not like your freedom. Let them go. Do not hold on to dead leaves. Let the wind take them. It is painful, yes, but it is the pain of birth. New people will come. People who resonate with your truth. People who love your freedom, not your cage. But there is a trap here too. Do not try to wake up your partner. Do not try to change your parents. Do not preach. Nothing creates more resistance than an uninvited preacher. If you try to force them to see what you see, they will close their eyes tighter. Instead, be the change. Let your joy be the proof. Let your peace be the argument. when they see that you are no longer angry, no longer fearful, no longer grasping, they will become curious. They will ask, "What happened to you?" And then, only then, can you share the key. If you are navigating this difficult transition in your relationships, if you are struggling to balance your new awareness with your old connections, we have resources that can help. Our ebooks on conscious relationships and aloneness versus loneliness go deep into this dynamic. Check the description. You do not have to figure this out alone. Now let us look at work. You spend half your waking life working. If you treat work as a burden, as a curse, as something to get through so you can live on the weekend, you are throwing away half your life. You are committing spiritual suicide 8 hours a day. You must transform your work, not necessarily by changing your job, though that might happen, but by changing your quality of being in the job. Work can be worship. If you are cleaning the floor, clean it as if you are cleaning the floor of a temple. If you are typing a report, type it with total attention, as if the universe depends on that keystroke. If you are cooking, cook with love. When you bring awareness to an action, the action becomes luminous. The boredom disappears. Boredom is not in the task. Boredom is in the mind. The mind is bored because it is not present. The mind wants to be somewhere else. But when you are fully here, cleaning the floor can be a dance. I have heard of Zen monks who attained enlightenment simply by chopping wood and carrying water. They did not read scriptures. They did not chant mantras. They simply chopped wood with total presence. They carried water with total presence. The action itself became the meditation. Do not wait for the perfect job to be alive. Be alive in the job you have. And a strange thing will happen. When you outgrow the work spiritually, the outer circumstances will shift. You will be moved. Life moves you when you are ready. But you cannot leave a level until you have mastered it. And mastery means doing it with joy. Let us go deeper into the mind. Even after this awakening, the mind will try to reclaim its throne. The mind is a cunning politician. It has ruled you for decades. It will not give up power easily. It will wait for a moment of weakness. It will wait for a moment of stress or fatigue or fear. And then it will whisper, "See, it doesn't work. You are not enlightened. You are just fooling yourself. Go back to safety. Go back to worry. Worry is useful. Worry protects you. You must be vigilant." But vigilance does not mean fighting. If you fight the mind, you give it energy. If you fight the darkness, you become exhausted. Vigilance means watching, just watching. When the old thoughts come, the thoughts of unworthiness, the thoughts of scarcity, the thoughts of comparison, do not say, "Go away." Do not say, "This is bad." Simply say, "Ah, the old tape is playing again." Look at it with humor. Laugh at it. Laughter is the most powerful weapon against the ego. The ego cannot survive laughter. It takes itself so seriously. It thinks your little problems are the center of the universe. When you laugh, you create distance. You shatter the seriousness. If you find yourself getting caught in the drama, stop. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself, "I am the witness, not the actor." Step back into the audience seats of your own consciousness. Watch the drama on the stage. It is a tragedy, it is a comedy, it is a farce. Enjoy it, but do not get lost in it. This practice of witnessing Sakshan is the golden key. It is the only thing you need. If you can witness your anger, the anger dissolves. If you can witness your greed, the greed evaporates. If you can witness your fear, the fear becomes courage. Why? Because all unconsciousness requires your identification to survive. it says, I am angry. But when you witness, you realize, I am seeing anger. You separate yourself from the emotion. You break the link. And without your identification, the emotion has no fuel. It burns out. This is the alchemy of awareness. It turns base metals into gold. It turns poison into medicine. But remember, this is a practice. It is not a destination. You do not arrive and stop. Life is a river. It is always flowing. The moment you stop rowing, the current pulls you back. You must choose aliveness every single day. Every morning is a new birth. Do not carry yesterday's ash into today's fire. Wake up and look at the world as if you have never seen it before, because in truth you haven't. This day has never existed before. This combination of light and sound and opportunity has never happened in the history of the universe and will never happen again. To miss this is the only sin. To be asleep to this miracle is the only tragedy. And do not worry about the future. The future does not exist. It is a projection of the mind. If you take care of the present, the future will take care of itself. The future is born out of the present. If your present is full of awareness, your future will be full of light. If your present is full of sleep, your future will be a nightmare. Plant the seeds of awareness now. Water them with your attention now, and the flowers will come. They must come. It is the law of existence. You might be asking, but Osho, what is the purpose of all this? Where are we going? This question comes from the mind. The mind always needs a goal. The mind needs a target. It is an arrow, but the soul is not an arrow. The soul is a bow. It does not want to go anywhere. It wants to be. There is no purpose. Life is not a business. Life is a play. It is a leela. Does a flower bloom to achieve a goal? Does a bird sing to get a promotion? Does the sun shine to earn money? No. They do it out of abundance. They do it because it is their nature. They do it for the sheer joy of doing it. When you ask for the purpose of life, you are asking a business question about a poetic existence. You are trying to measure a song with a ruler. The purpose of life is to live. The purpose of dance is to dance. The purpose of love is to love. Drop the idea of becoming something else. Drop the idea of improvement. You do not need to improve. You are already a masterpiece. You are just covered in dust. Wipe the mirror. That is all. And how do you wipe the mirror? By being present, by being total, by saying yes. If you are feeling the relief of dropping the burden of purpose, if you are feeling the lightness of just being, then consider supporting the continuation of this message. Use the super thanks button to offer a token of your gratitude. It is a way of participating in the flow of energy. And for those who are ready to make this witnessing a permanent part of their daily life, our join membership offers specific techniques, meditations, and guidance that we cannot share in these public videos. It is for the serious seekers. Let us touch upon one final subtle trap: seriousness. Many people, when they start the spiritual path, become very serious. They stop laughing. They walk with long faces. They think godliness means gravity. They become heavy. I say to you, seriousness is a disease. Seriousness is of the ego. The ego loves to be serious because it makes it feel important. Look at existence. Is a tree serious? Is a cloud serious? Is a child serious? No. Existence is playful. Existence is full of laughter. If you cannot laugh, you cannot pray. If you cannot dance, you cannot meditate. Your spirituality should make you lighter, not heavier. It should give you wings, not weights. If your religion makes you sad, throw it away. It is poison. True religion is a celebration. Celebrate your body, celebrate your breath, celebrate your senses. Celebrate the fact that out of billions of years of chaos, you have arrived here as a conscious being. What a joke, what a miracle. If you can laugh at yourself, you are already halfway to enlightenment. Laughter destroys the ego. When you laugh, thinking stops. You cannot laugh and think at the same time. Try it. Laughter is a non-mind state. So as you go back into the world, take your laughter with you. It is your shield. When people try to drag you into their drama, smile. When the world tries to make you fearful, laugh. When your own mind tries to make you guilty, dance. Be a rebel. A rebel is not someone who fights against society with guns and bombs. That is a reaction, not a rebellion. A rebel is someone who lives his own truth, quietly, joyfully, without asking for permission. A rebel does not destroy the old. He creates the new. He creates a new way of being human, a human being who is not driven by fear, but by love, who is not driven by greed, but by sharing, who is not driven by the past, but by the present. You are that rebel. The seed is in you. Do not let it die. Do not let the concrete of society crush it. You have to be a gardener to your own soul. You have to protect it, water it, give it sunshine. And the sunshine is awareness. Every time you remember to be present, you are watering the seed. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you are watering the seed. Every time you drop a mask, you are giving it space to grow. It is a long journey. But it is the only journey worth taking, and remember, you are never alone. The form of the Master may not be with you physically, but the presence is always there. Whenever you close your eyes and drop into silence, you will find me there. You will find all the awakened ones there. We are all sitting in the same silent room of consciousness. Meet us there. The door is open. The invitation has been sent. The only thing missing is you. Will you come? Now truly the words must end so the living can begin. Words are only fingers pointing at the moon. Do not bite the finger. Look at the moon. Go. Live. Love. Laugh. Be. And if you stumble, which you will, simply get up, dust off your knees, have a good laugh, and begin again. The journey is infinite. The joy is infinite.